Good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. This is the Marion City Council meeting for one of Iowa's most premier communities. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Roll call.
Mr. Jensen,
Here.
Mr. Harper,
Here.
Mr. Miskman,
Here.
Mayor Abu-Osley,
Present.
Miss Menser, here, Mr. Brandt,
Here.
Mr. Sterned.
Thank you. This time we have a moment of silence. Thank you. First item on the agenda this evening is a presentation on the Winter Lights program. We have members of the Leadership in Action class here to present. Welcome.
Okay, well, thank you very much for allowing us to come and discuss our project with you. My name is Jim Atty. I am from Marion Leadership in Action. And, you know, when I walked in this afternoon, I had every intent of introducing the classmates that were here. However, when I walked in, I noticed that I think just about everybody is here in the class. And so I'm going to leave it to all of you to put a face with a name with the individuals behind us. This year, Marion Leadership in Action has been very typical. You know, we've gotten together, we've gotten to know some new people, we've gotten to learn some key pieces of the community. We've been educated on some different ways to conduct ourselves in the business setting. And like previous classes, we have undertaken a service project, okay? I believe everybody here is excited for Friday night. That evening will be one of the unique things that happens here in Marion. I think we all have memories of my kiddos have memories of being downtown when the tree turns on, sometimes warmer than maybe it will be this weekend. However, it is really one of those unique moments where we all come together and we're able to commune as neighbors and as friends, and one of those things that makes Marion special, okay? Marion also has this interesting tradition of each year getting just a little bit better, right? That continuous improvement, it goes from good to great almost every year. And I think this year is going to be no exception. We're going to see the transformation of the downtown park. And I know I might have a 10-year-old ice skating, okay? As a part of that, we believe that bringing igloos to the uptown area is something that will also help to transform and be a draw to the community. Okay, the igloos are just one of those another unique way for people to gather downtown, be able to come and commune with one another once again and enjoy the community, maybe when the weather's not the best, okay? So our ask this evening is for a matching gift of $20,000. We will be fundraising half. We're asking the city council to approve a matching gift to purchase 2 igloos and pay for the necessary site improvements, electrical, and the furnishings that would go in them, okay? Now, to discuss the finer points, I will turn it over to Mary.
Absolutely. Good afternoon. Mary Frantic, also part of the Marion Leadership and Action Group. Nice to see you all, and thank you for the time. As Jim mentioned, this project will continue to beautify the downtown Marion area. You guys have just such a wonderful job over the years. I love seeing the projects evolve year after year. We have been working very closely with the fire department, the city parks department. All of those different departments have been involved throughout the entire entire process, as well as the Marion Chamber, to create this atmosphere as kind of the vision evolves in downtown Marion. So as you can see, we've also done the tree, as Jim mentioned. This year, you got to see the new beautiful light displays that, you know, I can already envision the children climbing all over, taking family photos, that sort of thing. And we're really hoping for this buy-in from the council to help us accomplish this project. And the reason we need the matching funds is we want them to be incredibly high-end. And what we mean by that is sturdy, long-lasting, great longevity of these igloos. We don't want to buy the cheapest product because we're worried that maybe next year we might have to be in the same boat. And that's not what, you know, downtown Marion has in mind. Now, the project will have ownership and be transferred to the Chamber and the Parks Department after our fundraising efforts. The fundraising efforts will go from now until the end of March. And what that also involves is we are in the process of partnering with local restaurants to raise funds. So they're doing like 10% matches. We've thrown out a coin phrase of maybe some Marion Mondays, and having the community involvement and, you know, kind of really promoting this all-in effort to continue the beautification of downtown Marion, especially during these winter months. And we are also doing a 50-50 raffle that we've already started and raised a significant amount of money. We'll be doing that through Friday and drawing the winner at 8 o'clock on Friday evening. Doesn't have to be present to win. So if you guys want some raffle tickets after the meeting, no, just kidding. But obviously, you know, we're doing multiple different fundraiser efforts that will bring together the community and the buy-in for the project. We've talked to local restaurants and figured out different ways we can partner and bring this project to life. But again, we will be handing off the logistics to the for the city council, the chamber, and our local parks department to kind of execute the vision. Some beautiful kind of ideas. Obviously, these aren't, you know, completely done, but we also have modeled this after the city of St. Louis. They have a very similar project that has been really successful in their downtown. So definitely a city that we've done some research on, things that we're kind of modeling it after.
All right. So yes, so in conclusion, what we are looking for is a match to the $20,000 that we would like to raise. We fully intend on having as much completed from a policy and utilization standpoint from when we raise the funds, are able to procure the igloos, and then hand that off to the Parks Department. We still have a few things that are going to be up in the air that may not be completed by the end of our fundraising timeline, but Tom has been instrumental with his team at making sure that we do have a clear runway to make sure that we do this right. Okay. Any questions that we can answer for all of you?
Thank you. First of all, welcome to everybody from the class who are here. So it's a great sign that you're all here to support the speakers in your project. So thank you. We'll start with Steve.
2 questions. What are the proposed size of these igloos? And where are we talking about putting them?
Great question.
Do you want to talk the size?
I don't have the dimensions at my fingertips, but they would have an occupancy limit of 9.
9?
9. So the approximate dimensions given furniture inside of them, but there would not be more than 9 inside of them by code. Locations, that's to be determined. We want to make sure that we find the proper placement to ensure if electrification is needed. That way we aren't running any extension cords, making sure that we're minding all the mechanical requirements that would be needed. And then also the level surface. It is possible they may be located in multiple locations. What the primary objective is for next winter, when these would go into place, is that we want to make sure that we get them up and running well. So that's why we're starting with 1, 2 to get those operational and get them in the right locations and functioning right.
So I've been one of the biggest proponents over the years, I believe, of getting more lights, making it brighter, making it better, making our tree taller. okay? So I have been in absolute 150% support of all of that. When I first saw this vision, the one thing that popped in my mind is, again, that's why I'm asking the location, because all of a sudden, if we put these in the park, in the plaza uptown, is the plaza getting too congested? I mean, I look at where the sleigh is right now, and it's not that far from the art piece, and it kind of looks like we're just having to put things a little closer together than maybe I would like to see. So again, as we move forward, that's a really key piece of this on where are they going to be, how are they going to be used, and some of that. So obviously more information is needed, but I think we've done a lot over the years, and I'm been in support of all of that. I'm just not sure. I like the concept, but I'm just not sure if that's going to make. We put it in the Uptown Plaza, it might be starting to look too congested and no open space. Like we're trying to fill everything in, and I'm not sure I want that. So where you're talking about putting them, I think becomes important, because besides that, I'm not sure where else you're going to put them to make them as usable as maybe the uptown businesses would like to use them. So, future information is going to be needed.
Yeah, and we'll definitely follow up once we have that
Yeah.
collaboration with the chamber on the location, follow back up with council on the preferred location.
Okay.
Anybody? Go ahead.
So I did take a look at the link you provided relative to one particular brand and model of these domes, the Hypodome S. And I see that it comes with or you can have it with a foundation for it to go on decks, or perhaps to elevate it a little bit. Obviously, you've already mentioned the infrastructure components, specifically the electrical. And it appears to me the class membership has expertise in all of that kind of thing. So that ought not to be a problem. I would hope. The question I have is, it does reference that there are some locations where these stay up year round. And my presumption is these would be for winter only. And I guess the specific hardware question I have is, would these be with the open door concept that's shown on the website, or would they in fact have a door with ventilation panels?
Great question. I would probably kick it over to Tom again for the specifics, but we also, I don't know if I failed to mention, when the infrastructure piece, that is also after site selection, it will also determine and will present on if it needs like a concrete pad or any of those additional factors. That would also be part of the funds that we're raising, which is why we're asking for the match all the way up to where we are. But Tom, if you want to comment on longevity and what we're planning there.
Yes, thank you. You're right, Grant. There are a lot of really interesting enhancements that you can make to the Hype Dome product specifically. In regards to the design specifications of them, we would be working with parks to ensure the policy alignment. So for example, we talked about the size restrictions. The policy for use would lay out the requirements that would be needed. The doorway, there would be factors if it is open air that would need to be considered relative to code, not just the fire code, but also building codes. They've been along the way in regards to compliance for use and to make sure that we are working within our code. What will be great also about this policy for use is that that would also apply not just to the city, but for also private businesses, should they want to use a like or similar type of igloo on their property. They could do it because that policy for use would be defined based on the code that Marion has. Your question about the timeline and how long that they would be up. Right now, according to our code, a temporary structure would be up for 90 days. So it would not be the plan as of right now for them to be up more than 90 days over the winter season. But that is something that there can be other discussions about, but they would need to be taken down and then reassembled in the same location or another location if that's something that council has interest in, or if you would like to see certain pieces for us to investigate further relative to the use, we would be happy to do that.
Okay. Well, and I think you mentioned early on in the presentation that there's a lot of policy related matters and details to be worked out. So, Tom, that gives us context around those kinds of details. Thanks.
Gage?
I just kind of want to echo a little bit of what Councilman Jensen was talking about with his questions and concerns, because I think like I see the layout of the vision for this, but the big important questions are of course like the location, and then what goes with that is, you know, the rental aspect, rental policy of that I'd like more information on as well before we get to a further point, because, you know, most of the time, at least locally, you see these type of structures. It's related to private business. So it's like a restaurant, you go in there, you know, the experience I'm getting is going in this dome, I'm having dinner with like my friends, family, date. But with this, it's kind of like and the biggest factor of that is the location. So, you know, if I'm a Marion resident or a visitor, what am I renting essentially? Like what experience am I looking for? And maybe you guys can speak more to that overall vision, or maybe that's a staff question because it has to do with the rental rates or the rental policy, and it ties to location. But just kind of curious what that experience looks like if it's not tied to like the ice loop.
It's not tied to the.
If it's not tied to the ice loop, if it's
thank you,
not
sorry.
up in the plaza.
And I would say there's nothing that says it's not going to be tied to the ice loop, but I think that again, further policy needs to be around. And to be honest, Gage, our leadership team had exactly these exact same questions. Like, well, where's it going to be? How many people is it going to do? What restaurants are going to serve to it? And so I can tell you that, you know, we've made a cumulative list of all these questions that need to be answered. And again, that's why the partnership with the chamber, the fire department, the parks department, all of those factors are so important. And we are so fortunate to have them on our team also. So they are going to be, you know, through the entire process, developing it right along with us. And to Tom's point, we'll be coming back to council and presenting on kind of the final vision and where they're going to be in those sort of items. But to put your mind at ease, we definitely had all these similar questions because it feels there's a lot of moving parts, and we definitely recognize that.
Yeah, this project is a little dissimilar from previous years where we're not procuring something and then handing it over. It's coming with a lot of unknowns, and it's coming with a lot of policy and, as Mary said, moving parts that are going along with this. We still feel that it's, perhaps it has some questions to be answered, but it's something that we believe in. And we do believe that no matter the direction that we ultimately take, it's going to serve the purpose that we intend to draw more people to the downtown area. The funds are still the city's, and hopefully we'll be able to get all of those questions answered for you in due time. But fully want to recognize that unlike previous projects, we can't necessarily come with everything 100% baked.
No, absolutely. And I respect the complexity of it and the challenge of this year compared to other years. Like I was part of last year's class. The lights are pretty straightforward. It's like they are lights. So I do like the challenge of this class's project and trying to figure out, I think it's a leadership class, and this is very like strategic, like comprehensive project for compared to what's kind of been done in the past. So kudos to you guys for.
We also are hoping, you know, some revenue generation, not only for the local businesses, should they decide to partner, you know, maybe for the chamber, those sort of items can be part, you know, of the rental process, which we're excited about the possibility for Marion.
Yeah, that's cool. No, thank you.
Sarah?
Can you, and maybe you don't know this, but the timeline for this then would be, we would have to go into our approval for January. Maybe this is as much a Ryan question, but what are some of the deadlines that the class has to meet based on these decisions in order to have these ready for, I'm assuming, late 2026, right?
Right. It's
Right now, our one and main priority is the fundraising deadline. So our fundraising deadline is March 31st. is our goal to have our $20,000 commitment raised. And then that's why we're asking for the matching funds by then. And then from that point, I'm not sure on the timeline for ordering. So again, that might be a Ryan or a Tom question. But ultimately, our main priority is to raise the funds in order to be able to make this happen.
Next question, and this could also maybe involve Seth. Tom too, so sorry. But what would it be if I wasn't asking one question a meeting, Seth? Has there been any discussion with like you identified Uptown as the location? Are these able to be used elsewhere in the community? Would they be available if there was an event or something happening at Lau Park and somebody wanted to have these on a location there and they were they're bringing in your own food since they're not associated with the restaurant, right? Have they been thought about other cluster areas on edges of town where there's restaurants or locations that something like this could also exist? Maybe that you didn't have time to explore if it's, we've got great things happening in Uptown, but I also know there's expansive other areas in the community that are looking for some activity. So I wasn't sure how much these are set.
So I think there's two questions there, if they could be used on public property. And so that's something we'll look into, potentially even during summertime from a temporary point that we'll explore. And then the second question from more of the private side of things, this is developing those policies really helps provide that framework for that. Obviously, we will still want to work with our planning team and our whole city team as far as making sure those standards are met. But this really helps provide that framework for those potential opportunities.
Because right now, we do not have, I'm trying to think of all the updates and the different things we've done for dining and activities and sidewalk opportunities. Did we address this, or is this going to be a whole new section of the policy to deal with this type of structure in the community?
So yeah, we have the sidewalk cafe policy that is for more of the uptown sidewalks, specifically along 7th Avenue, a few along 10th Street. For this type of structure, if it was on a private property, we would view it as an accessory structure. We'd look at that code section, no different than a shed, even though it would be more or could be temporary in nature. But again, restaurants could use them year round too, if they wanted to. So we would view them as accessory structures. For more of the public side of it, I know Seth has asked some questions of planning on what things need to be thought of going into policies and stuff like that. So that communication has started.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
great idea. I'd love to see them in Uptown and other areas of Marion. I have same concerns that have been brought up by everyone else. Timeline was kind of brought up, but also timeline, how far are staff into drawing up some type of policy that can be presented to council? And then one other timeline question too after that.
So right now, the primary focus is on fundraising. There is a branch group within Marion Leadership in Action that is focused on compliance from a code standpoint. And we're fortunate on our team. We've got some folks that are involved in compliance and within the city. And we've included some folks that aren't employees with the city, so they can see some of that experience and dialogue and the contemplation that goes into that code review. And so right now, the two products that we were looking at was really the focus to make sure that those products could be used in Marion based on our code, our fire code and our building code. And so of those two products, one, the dome that has been shared is the higher quality product, the one that's being recommended to council. The policy development conversation has been discussed in a meeting with multiple city departments, and that's along the timeline that will be working simultaneously with the fundraising over the next several months. So that way we are ready for the winter season come next winter for use.
So we are months away from some type of policy coming to us for review.
Yes.
Okay, and then it was also brought up, I think Sarah brought it up, about timeframe for you all for purchasing it. I know in the past, there's been deadlines for, oh, they need to buy something by such date to get a special price. Is that the case here at all, or?
That was with the light, with the
There
holiday
was
lights.
yeah.
We've been monitoring the website periodically. We're not in a position to make the purchase right now just based on funding.
Sure.
But if, of course, we'll be looking for that opportunity to make the most efficient purchase as possible.
Just worried about us getting the cart before the horse here in this situation where we may not be able to come up with a policy that's approved by council and that potential of purchasing it prior to
Sure. Well, we can work.
that.
Of course, this is a collaborative chamber city project, really a Team Marion project. And we want to make sure that council is attuned to the locations, all of those things as we move forward.
I could add just a little bit to that, Will. In prior years, we've always worked with the chamber with if there's a discount as far as timing. For instance, the lights that were installed for this year were just paid in August, so within the current budget year. And normally when we're doing this, their class is fundraising through March, graduation's in May, right? And we're usually making acquisition close to the fiscal year end. So it could truthfully fall in either fiscal year, and it depends on how long it takes to get the product. So it's a conversation we typically have with Jill after fundraising has occurred.
Okay. Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so I thought at the beginning I knew the answer to this, but then in the subsequent conversation, I got confused. Can you just confirm for me where they're gonna be placed? In the square, in the park? In the plaza, in the park?
Yes, we had mentioned the park, but I think with the questions that have come up and some of the concerns, that was just our idea. That was nothing that we had set in stone at this point.
So I guess my next question is, how was this selected as your project? Like, was it yeah.
My understanding is the chamber is the person that developed it and then presented it to our class to move forward.
Okay, so this was a chamber idea. Okay. So I guess that to me, that's important because we kind of need to know what their vision is for how these are going to be used. And that's kind of an important detail, I think. You know, how will they be utilized? I heard some mention of restaurants. I heard some, I think those are important details that we kind of need to know. I'm generally supportive of the idea. I had looked at the holiday lights program as something that would be ongoing with more lights installations that would be spread out through the entire city. So we're not just focusing on Uptown, but if this is what you guys are proposing, I'm generally supportive of it. I just think there's some details that we need to know. How would these be reserved? All that kind of stuff. How would they be used? And then my last question is ownership. Would the ownership lie with the city? Because I thought I heard city and chamber.
Yeah, there's going to be some details that we'll work out and follow back up with council. Really, it's going to be on who's handling the reservations of it. It's going to be a true partnership as far as if it's in the Uptown area, whether it's the Central Plaza, North Plaza, or the Artway. But certainly
Okay, so
something
it
we'll follow up.
could be in the Artway.
Potentially.
Okay. But the ownership, can ownership be shared, or does it have to be one or the other? Who's covering insurance? Those kinds of things.
Those are all details that the class is going to have to work out. And whatever the result is of that, then we would most likely want to update our 2080 agreement with the chamber to reflect if it is joint ownership and who's covering the insurance and whatnot.
Any other questions?
So Mayor, I think you were asking some questions that were putting a little texture around some things that were in my mind. you know, it seems to me there's some sophistication to our policy definitions that'll have to be considered. Obviously, the ownership, the management, the administrative requirements that surround these. You know, I really challenged the team to think about what's it going to take to run this. Now, I'm kind of recycling back about 4 years ago when I asked similar questions about the ice loop, and I've disabused myself of those concerns. I'm really happy, but you're not going to see me on skates, okay? Just saying. But you know, I think we do need to think pretty thoroughly around just what's it going to take year in and year out to run these, maintain them, store them, do whatever we're going to have to attend to. So my question to the project team is this: let's assume that all of that consideration suggests that you need to execute a plan B. What is that? And or is this project single threaded only to this deliverable? And I don't expect an answer now, but I expect that to kind of go into the thinking of, as you do the more detailed analysis of the policy and the administration elements of this. And it appears that either from a timing standpoint, there's too many details to work out, coupled with the ordering, coupled with this, that, and the other thing. You know, what is the fallback project as the plan B that might still be valuable to the community? So I don't expect an answer, just give that consideration.
Yep. I appreciate it. That's good feedback. I think something that we definitely need to consider. The one little bit of flavor that I will add to that is in our letter that we did send out for our initial fundraising, we tried to keep it broad for beautification purposes. So our hope is that, yes, we can pivot if that does come to as our need. I will tell you, I don't think that we've, to your point, selected anything or picked a different direction. But I appreciate the feedback, and I think it's something that we all need to consider.
And it maybe just means you go through that soak cycle on those issues that we've identified. You get through that process as soon as you can to know whether or not you have to take a fallback objective.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? Do you guys have anything else?
Honestly, Sarah, I loved your idea of doing it in the summertime. I don't think we talked about that during our discussion process. Maybe Tom has already thought about it with the Parks Department. I'm assuming that they have, but honestly, I think that's a great idea. But again, just to be transparent, we realize there's so many moving parts here, but we do we believe in the beautification of downtown and other parts of Marion. You know, I think that's a really great point to say the entire city, right? It's not just a couple city blocks, it is the entire city. So, you know, should we have to pivot, that will definitely be on the table as consideration to use these funds for continuing the beautification of downtown Marion. Well, Marion, why do I keep doing that? Marion.
Very good.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you
to all of you. Thanks for your interest in doing something good for the city, and we really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Our next item is our first public forum. We have two public forums on the agenda. The first is for comments from members of the public on any topic listed on the agenda but not associated with a public hearing. If anyone is here to address the council on any topic that is part of a public hearing, there will be time during the public hearing. And if all other items will be reserved for the second public forum, which is towards the end of the meeting. I'd like to review the procedures, the rules of procedure for addressing council in the public forum. Please complete the yellow card that is at the end of the table and hand it to the city clerk before you speak. Please do not approach the dais where the council is sitting. If you have handouts to submit to the council, please give them to the city clerk for distribution to the city council. Once you're called forward, please step up to the podium and speak into the microphone as the meetings are recorded. All persons wishing to address the council will be provided with a maximum of 5 minutes to make their comments. Please do not engage in any conduct or speech that is imminently threatening to any person or which incites violence or which is obscene. Please refrain from making disparaging remarks against any individual, but keep your comments to the topic at hand. Please avoid repeating comments or points that have been previously shared, and do not engage in conduct that disrupts the orderly progress of the meeting or engage in speech or conduct which interferes with others' ability to participate in the meeting. Failure to adhere to these guidelines or engaging in any disruptive speech or behavior will, after a warning, result in removal from the meeting. We appreciate everyone's cooperation in adhering to these procedures. At this time, the public forum is open. If anyone is here to address council on any topic that is associated with the public hearing, so not on the agenda, but not associated with the public hearing, please come forward. Any comments on topics on the agenda, but not part of a public hearing? Okay, we'll close this part of the meeting, proceed to the consent agenda.
Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda as follows. Items A1 through D6, resolutions 32650 through 32657.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented, including items A1 through D6, resolutions 32650 through 32657. Discussion.
Your Honor, I have two items. On D4, just a matter of clarification. It's referencing Gemstone Drive, but I think that is actually Gemstone Road. Just a minor point of clarification on that. And then on D5, I'm looking at the site development plan for that first, that's Creekside Pride, right? Yep. Okay, site number 1. I have a specific question about Wallace Road. Mike, this is the question I had for you. Will Wallace Road continue to exist between Tower Terrace and Winslow? I guess what I'm trying to understand is, will it basically function as it is now?
Today it will function as it is. So from Tower Terrace to Winslow, that is Wallace. Once we receive the funding for Tower Terrace and that bridge is installed, Wallace Road Bridge will likely be removed. Maybe it's a pedestrian bridge. That'll be a future decision point. But I would say it would be very minimal that it's actually there north of Tower Terrace.
So longer term, under that scenario, access to this site would be by taking a northerly exit off of Tower Terrace? I guess what I'm trying to understand is interim and then, interim time frame, permanent time frame, kind of just what the access to this amenity is going to be.
Right. So if you can imagine on your Google map right now how Wallace Road is,
right,
that the access point for this is between the bridge and Tower Terrace. So the access today would be the same as it would be when Tower Terrace Road is built.
Okay, I still have a couple residual questions. We can pick up on it, but it's not material really to the effort on site 1. I was overly enamored with all my questions about Wallace Road.
We can huddle afterwards.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? So can we just accept that correction of road instead of drive, or?
Yes, that's a Scribner's error, so we don't need to take any further action. That can just be
No
corrected.
amendments needed or anything like that to the?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for pointing that out. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion is approved. For the next section, I will turn over the meeting to the Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to approve the consent agenda with Mayor Abalassi's abstention as follows. This will be items A1 through D1, resolutions 32658 through 32659.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda with the mayor's abstention as follows. Items A1 through D1, resolutions 32658 and 32659. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. The motion carries with the mayor's abstention. I'll pass it back to the mayor. Oh, you want me to do this one too?
Yes.
Okay. Next, we have a public hearing on a proposed development agreement with McGrath Automotive Group, Inc. A presentation.
Yes, Your Honor. This is for a development proposed for the renovation and expansion of the existing McGrath Volkswagen dealership located at 675 Blair's Ferry Road. Construction is anticipated to be completed by December 31st, 2025. The incentive being offered is a 5-year, 75% tax increment finance rebate with a not to exceed of $70,000. The company has agreed to a minimum assessment of $2.2 million and has also agreed to landscape and building plans. And I have not received any comments.
Anyone else on staff receive any comments?
I have not received any.
Great. Oh, I guess so. This is the public hearing part. So I guess at this time, the public hearing is now open if anybody wants to come forward and speak on this issue for or against. Seeing nobody immediately moving and jumping to the podium, this public hearing is now closed and we'll move to the resolution.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to approve resolution number 32660, approving development agreement with McGrath Automotive Group, Inc., authorizing annual appropriation tax increment payments and pledging certain tax increment revenues to the payment of the agreement.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 32660, approving the development agreement with McGrath Automotive Group, Inc., authorizing the annual appropriation tax increment payments and pledging certain tax increment revenues to the payment of the agreement. Any questions or discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say no. And are there any abstentions?
Aye.
Motion has passed with the mayor's abstention. With that, I will pass the meeting back to the mayor.
Yes, Your Honor, I move to approve ordinance number 25-31, amending chapter 340-11.1 of the Marion Code of Ordinances related to zoning board of adjustment. And this is by the city of Marion, our final consideration.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the final consideration of ordinance number 25-31 regarding amendments to chapter 340-11.1 of the Code of Ordinances relating to the zoning board of adjustment. Any discussion? All those in favor of the final consideration of ordinance number 25-31, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion is approved.
Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 25-32, amending chapter 340 zoning regulations pertaining to definitions, district use tables, and specific use standards of the Marion Code of Ordinances related to auxiliary dwelling units or ADUs. And this is the final consideration.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the final consideration of ordinance number 25-32, amending chapter 340 of the code pertaining to definitions, district use tables, and specific use standards related to auxiliary dwelling units. Any discussion? All those in favor of the final consideration of ordinance number 25-32, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion is approved. The next item on the agenda is a discussion regarding commercial business fire inspection fees. Welcome, Jason.
Good evening, council. How are you tonight? The department's here. The fire department's here tonight seeking direction for updating our commercial inspection fees. We've taken a new approach to this as prior years, and I'll explain during the presentation. We've partnered with internal and external partners and collaborated with them moving forward with this. We've been working on this for some time now before tonight's presentation. The prevention division is responsible for conducting commercial inspections for all commercial businesses per the 2021 International Fire Code that's been previously adopted by council. This aligns with the strategic plan of Safe Community. First, I want to explain our current strategy and process of conducting nearly 1,400 commercial business inspections throughout our community. In 2015, we extended our rotational business inspection list from inspecting all the businesses every 2 years to a 3-year rotation. The purpose of this was to bring efficiency to the division and keep up with the commercial expansion of the community. This rotation was based on a combination of occupancy risk and code required frequency. This chart displays the categories into which the businesses are placed in the schedule based on that risk category and code required frequency. I'll explain this a little bit. You'll see these are 3 different columns here. Sorry, I hit the mouse. The first column would be a higher risk occupancy or code required annual frequency. Some of these are schools, daycares, your assemblies, larger facilities. Every 2 years are strip malls, commercial condos, and 3 years are your lower risk occupancies, smaller shops, things like that. In 2023, as part of the department reorganization, the prevention division was modified and 3 supplemental inspectors were added to assist with these inspections and bolster future succession of the division. These inspectors are 3 off-duty employees who work a combined 24 hours of overtime per pay period. They assist in the moderate, the middle column, and a few of the high risk occupancies. Along with our on-duty engine companies and shift companies, they assist with the low frequency in the 3rd column there and some of the moderates. Beginning this year, the city implemented a new BSNA software, which was associated with community development and has an inspection platform that we conduct our commercial business inspections on. This software has enabled us to go electronic and email form versus our old school paper forms and handwriting. Chief Lou Hardy and administrative staff worked much of this year to streamline our process with the vendor. So we are hopeful to get better data collecting, reporting out of this software. We intend to begin tracking the performance of the division to ensure we're meeting our strategy and goals of the division. Finance conducted a cost allocation modeling as part of the budgeting overview, which shows the prevention division is nearly 10% of the operational budget of our department. When comparing that over the past 5 years, this chart shows that revenues through our current permits and fee schedule are at a 1% cost recovery rate. Our current fee schedule is based on code required operational permits and fees charged if businesses were non-compliant after 2 visits. These fees fluctuate year by year based primarily on new construction permits, depending on how much construction is coming through the community. This shows that the department is essentially providing a service subsidized by all taxpayers. Upon further review and collaboration with finance, we learned that commercial tax is approximately 20% of the general fund, which means the other 80% is from residential taxes, which the division provides minimal services for. Examples of some of our resident services would be community events, public education, smoke detector installations, things such as that. Historically, businesses have not been charged for inspections unless they require a 3rd visit due to not complying with violations causing multiple trips and staff time. Some of which choose that our current fee schedule and cost of that is easier to pay than the cost of fixing things, but it requires us to make multiple visits. The next slide shows what comparable cities' fees are, and I've evaluated this over time. Most have stayed the same or had minor increases similar to what we've done in the past. But this discussion gets brought up quite frequently in fire marshals discussions and chief officers discussions throughout the time. You may have noticed recently on the news, Dubuque Fire Department has increased their fees. They doubled some of the response fees and are charging for motor vehicle accidents, things like that. Not exactly the same as what we're referencing here, but it does apply to what other departments are looking at doing. Our metro neighbor, Cedar Rapids, has the most progressive fee schedule related to commercial business inspections shown here. They have recently reached out to us as well, inquiring what we're going to be doing with our fees, as they are currently reevaluating what their process is and what they want to do. Although their fees are an hourly rate, I would propose that a flat rate based on our rotational schedule and ease of tracking and billing purposes. Actually, as in communication with Cedar Rapids this morning, and they concurred that the hourly time as they do it is difficult to track. Another important piece of this slide shown here that I want to point out, other departments towards the bottom show no charges for code enforcement or code inspections. Similarly to the example of Dubuque, some have fees associated with other programs, just not associated with their inspection fee, commercial business fee inspections. We focused on a commercial inspection portion due to our cost allocation with finance and data showing that the program is being subsidized by residential taxation. I don't believe that these other departments either have probably conducted a cost allocation study similar to what we have in focusing on where some of these fees could be originated from. So this slide shows what cost recovery options would look like by charging for initial inspection, and we're seeking council direction on implementing an initial inspection fee. This chart begins by showing what we're currently collecting or recovering for cost recovery at the 1% at the top line, and is slated down through certain percentages of what cost recovery would look like. Keeping in mind that 80% of the current operating budget is by residential taxes. So we've been communicating with internal departments and have met with Chamber and Medco as well to review this, and we intend to have follow-up meetings with them after tonight's discussion with council. So we're all still communicating together and know what communication needs to be moving forward with this to the potential business sector. Our recommendation would be to start at the 25% cost recovery at a flat fee of $300. This final slide, I'll just flip back and forth through a couple slides here. Well, this is essentially our comparables, and this integrates what a flat fee of $300 would look like comparatively to other communities. To explain what the inspection fees are, then it says that if we had to go back for a third visit, those third, fourth, fifth visits, that is our current fee schedule. So it would be implementing the initial inspection fee and then adding on the fees for multiple inspections. I'd like to add as well that when we considered this fee, that we take other things into consideration, and in doing so, we just look at some of the things that we pay internally at the city departments. As most of you are aware, I was part of getting a contract, citywide contract for fire alarm and sprinkler companies, extinguishers, things like that. And there's a lot of private agencies that are single source, one system agencies that charge anywhere from $150 to $1,000 for those single service systems. When our inspectors go into these commercial businesses, we aren't only looking at sprinkler systems, we're looking at alarm systems, all the code related things, exiting aisles, extension cords, hazardous materials, external business or external services that affect response and the public safety. So we have more of a holistic approach when we're doing our fire safety inspections and when we're going to these businesses. So at this time, I'd open up discussion by council, or be happy to answer any questions you may have. And some of my teammates might jump in with some of these questions as well.
Okay, thank you. I'll start with Grant.
Jason, on the reinspection fees, whether it be second, third, fourth, whatever, is the reinspection scope the entirety of the premises and everything is looked at again, or is it only those elements that failed on the initial?
Only the elements that failed on the initial. We may pick up something as we go on return visits, see something we overlooked, or they may have something additional that has been added since we went, because it's a 30-day process. But typically the reinspect is just for those that failed on the first inspection.
Points of failure.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's why I'm asking the question. As I interpret this chart, it's the second, let's use the second reinspection. It would be another $300 plus $100. No,
it's just the $100. If we went with our recommendation, it would be the $300 for our first inspection. We charge $300 for the first inspection, and then that's why it says plus. I brought that up when we changed the slide. I thought this might bring that question up. It's a $300 flat fee, and then if we had to go back for a third visit, then it'd be an additional $100. If we had to go back for a fourth visit, it would be $200, and those are not accumulative. Okay. Those are, if we had to go back a third time or a fourth time, so then it'd be $200. It wouldn't be the 100 plus the 200.
Okay. You alleviated my concern. Thank you.
Yes.
So is the idea to encourage them to get everything right the first time? Is that why
That's part.
it goes up so steeply?
That's part of it. That's part.
Well, I mean, that makes sense. So,
Yeah.
because go ahead.
Well, first of all, I'm completely in favor of people who are using those types of services, pay for those types of services. Also, I guess I also would support a flat fee concept versus an hourly. To me, that's a lot easier to manage, to build, and to do. The one aspect on a flat fee like that, it seems a little bit, I'm going to say a little bit unfair to have a straight flat fee where I'm going to pick on legacy manufacturing with 200,000 or 300,000 square feet versus we've got a mom and pop shop up here with a couple thousand square feet getting the same amount. I think the magnitude of that. So I guess I would suggest we at least consider a couple of plateaus that those, I mean, again, when I was at Vector, you guys are there for quite a bit of time. You got a pretty complicated plant, you know, with the sprinkler systems and everything. And so to me, the amount of time on those larger businesses ought to be higher. So I consider, at least I'd be more in favor of a plateaued concept, but still using flat fees.
So I can speak to that on a couple places, Councilman Jensen. One is this is a start. This is a starting point that we tried to land on, you know, throw a target at, and that we're going to closely monitor this every year. And that recommendation, by the way, I forgot to say that, would be to begin this July 1, 2026, if we got approved. Sorry for stepping that. But this is a starting point. We intend with our BSNA software to closely monitor, and hopefully we get a time tracking mechanism on there that we could do something similar to that. The other thing I'll fall back on, it would be this risk chart here. So it is a flat fee, and I know we consider square footage or things like that, but some of these inspections get done every 3 years, so that maybe a smaller business would pay that $300 every 3 years versus the ones that are annual, they're paying it $300 every year. So some of your smaller, low risk occupancies, they pay that every 3 years because that's how often the frequency is that we go into those places.
Mm.
So.
Yeah, I'd still entertain some concept to consider that. I mean, again, some of these larger, I'm not trying to penalize larger businesses.
Right.
I'm just saying, I know the magnitude of the amount of time you're going to spend on some of those over a certain size. I mean, I don't know how many levels you would need, 2 or 3, but so I understand your concept and that taking in a number of years into consideration as well, but.
Yeah, and that's kind of hard to draw down on as well, because that was an interesting conversation we had with Medco when we were explaining this to them, because that was one of their initial things. But as we explained it, and they realized that some of these, even some of your smaller shops are in a, I guess I could use Councilman Sternad's occupancy for an instance. He is one of many in a smaller building, and a smaller occupant of that building. However, that still affects his neighbors in the same building. And we have commercial condos, things like that, that risk, even though they're a lower risk occupant, that sometimes that building, it still has effects on that. Their across the wall neighboring properties as well. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah. Will?
Did
you have something?
Now I gotta remember, I didn't write it down. Oh, the
Happens to
comparables.
me too.
I know, right? Comparables. When you were getting that information, it's just Cedar Rapids that has an inspection fee. Everyone else is 0. Do you know if any of those other comparable cities are talking about adding an inspection fee?
Yes, this has been a recent conversation amongst many departments. And it's not just in the inspection field or commercial business inspections, it's holistically with certain fees that they're going to potentially incorporate through their organizations, and everyone's keeping a close pulse on what others are doing.
And my opinion is, I don't see why the taxpayers should fund this at all. So I'm not opposed to the fees being higher to cover the cost, because why should my taxes go to pay for someone's business to have inspected? So I'm not opposed for it to even be higher in the future. I understand starting low, but I'm not opposed for it to go up in the future.
That's why
That's
we're,
what I
that's
was
why,
gonna look
yeah.
for clarity
Yeah.
on. If you had, again, we're providing options for council to
Yeah.
consider.
No, there's always a starting point, obviously, but I honestly didn't realize until we had this conversation the other day that it was basically funded by the taxpayers. I never comprehended that.
Randy?
I have a couple questions. I agree with what Will said, because I think, we sometimes forget that commercial businesses are just that, they're a business. And a lot of these things that we do provide as services should roll down to the business owner as part of their profits and losses. So I'm in favor of these fees associated, because it's a cost of doing business. Jason, one of the questions I have is we have the majority of our small businesses leasing space. So do the fees go to the tenant or do they go to the owner, which would actually roll up to who receives the reinspection penalties? Is it the owner or is it the tenant? We have a lot of landlords in the community here that feel that they put that burden back onto their tenant. They're responsible for their own snow removal, their grass maintenance. And I think I have a little bit of concern on how landlords are actually handling their properties. So I feel as though the tenants are the ones checking their batteries to their emergency lights. They're making sure that doors are opening and closing properly, that their one-way outs, one-way ins are being more handled. So because we don't have some of these landlords don't even live in the same state, and they're being handled by the tenant. So how would we handle some of those details in the weeds? Technically, that is a deed holder to the property's responsibility, right? They're the taxpayer, they own the building, which ultimately is going to flow down to the tenant, because that'll be considered to be a CAM fee, which is a common area maintenance fee associated back to the tenant. But technically, the owners are responsible for the safety and of all patrons that go in and out of these buildings.
yeah, and as the maintenance code division, we don't tend to dive into the tenant lease agreements, know who's responsible for what or how that happens. What we do through the fire code is we do those inspections based on the occupancy, not just based on the space. So it could be a mercantile, it could be a business, it could be an assembly, it could be a manufacturer. That it's all based on the tenant that is there, and that's what drives what risk category they fall into and the frequency that we have to inspect those. So that's what we base ours off of. You bring up a good question, though, Councilman Sternad, and it's another thing that I'd like to add. Some of these commercial condo areas or multi-use buildings that have common areas or vacant lots, there would then be a fee to the owner in that instance, because we still have to inspect that common area of the multi-use building, because a lot of those common areas have HVAC or furnaces, things like that, or water heaters that have to be inspected as part of that overall building. So if there's a vacant area or common area, then we would have to charge a fee to the owner of the property as well, because we'd have to inspect those spaces in that overall building.
So is it, just as a clarity then, so if the proposal goes through of a flat fee, then is it to the tenant themselves and not the structure? So if the structure occupies 3 private retail locations under the same roof, it's the tenant that's charged the flat fee for their portion to the inspection, whatever the schedule may be.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
And whether or not they end up paying it and is subject to the contract between them and their landlord. I mean, it could be that the landlord agrees to pay it, but the invoice is going to go to the tenant, right?
Correct.
You're on. Okay. Well, we have Sarah, and then we'll come back.
Just a quick question. Is there, remind me, what is the review time for this? If we get into this and are we going to reassess this in a year and see what's happening? Or 3 years or 2 years, or is there kind of like a checkpoint on this new process to see if we're running into issues or some financial situations with some of the businesses impacted?
Similar to many other city departments, we review our fees annually on an annual basis with finance, and we review things that may be issues or need adjusted, things like that. So it'd be an annual review.
Okay, that'd be great if we could kind of see maybe in 18 months or whatever it is, if kind of how much if this changes the response to people getting things done for the reassessment, or if it's, I don't want it to look like, while I appreciate the fact that the taxpayer shouldn't be paying it and these could be on the businesses, I just don't want to, get somebody unnecessarily upside down because of a specific situation that, that kind of thing, and look like we're not welcoming our businesses in a safe manner. So.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, back to, I think Steve's commentary about perhaps looking at a tiered structure. If you could go back to the risk table. So annually, schools, daycares, churches, manufacturing, and liquor licenses get a look-see every year.
Yeah.
In the case of churches, what I'm thinking about is nonprofits in general. A church doesn't have a commercial endeavor per se, which the other entities there, and certainly maybe then schools. But I'm sensitized to, is there any consideration that how we would handle and the fee charged to essentially nonprofits? So that's a comment. I guess then I look at that same group. Are churches as complex as manufacturing entities? And so that goes to the notion of some tiered approach that might be appropriate. Any thoughts about that, or are those things that can still be evaluated as you fine tune this for full implementation?
We can look into that stuff by any means. Go ahead, Chief. If you want.
Yeah, great question. And the fee is purely, we are looking for feedback and direction. So we've gotten some great feedback from you for us to look at in regards to nonprofit. I think that's a consideration, and ultimately that's the direction that you would provide us to develop and move that to finance on. In regards to the inspection frequency, it's based on, again, we keep using the term occupancy. There are actual technical definitions based on the use of an occupancy that prescribes different elements within the fire code to be evaluated. And so instead of using that technical jargon within all of the different factors relative to this, that's why we've used some common descriptions of what would be an assembly, for example, which is a large gathering of a lot of people. So that's why you see churches up there as an example. That would be an assembly occupancy, which triggers very specific code compliance from the fire code. So in regards to the inspection frequency and our strategy, that's one thing, and to provide a little bit more context to this. On the fee schedule, if that's direction that you would like us to incorporate, is that if it's a nonprofit business, that be taken into consideration relative to the fee schedule, we can absolutely do that.
I certainly appreciate the higher risk rating is based on assembly of people, which then drives the frequency of inspection, because that's the highest risk category you can ever think about. So I guess I was just educated on some things I should doodle on about this. Thank you.
Anyone else? Oh, go ahead.
Just sitting here thinking about the nonprofit thing, and I don't know if I would agree to have like fees waived for a nonprofit. Just again, it goes back to then the taxpayers are paying for this service, and it's again part of doing business, part of being a nonprofit. There's expenses that you have to budget for. So yeah, I don't know if I would be in agreement with that.
I'm the same wavelength. Okay, anyone else? So the direction you're looking for? If everyone's generally okay with your proposal, that's the direction you're looking for?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
we recommend, go ahead, Ryan.
Well, yeah, can you go back? Thank
Sorry,
you.
yep. See, too many slides.
That's our recommendation. Councilman Jensen had mentioned exploring a tiered system for the smaller shops. Is that, I mean, that's I'd like to get clarity from the rest of council on that one.
Actually, my proposal would be a tiered level increase in it for the larger shops and the larger businesses. So
Yeah, I mean,
if I go the other direction, I think you establish a minimum, but then you need to have, for some of these larger businesses and schools, and I mean, looking at the size of the building, the amount of time put into it, I think having 2, maybe 3 tiers would be appropriate. Maybe you start out with 2. I don't know. You guys can have that conversation. I don't know how many businesses fall into the different categories, but maybe two tiers, 3 tiers, but establish your minimum and then go up from there is what I would suggest.
And that's is our consensus for that? I mean, we're happy to go do that. Go ahead. Yep, please.
Just want to add, I don't know if you understand right now that everything is manual. So I'd say yes, Steve, but I want to say, let's wait a year. Let this fee sit for a year so that we can collect the data and have the data in a very easy, tangible, usable format. Chief, you want to add anything to that? Because you're the one that's in the day-to-day weeds on it.
Yes, as Chief Hansen was sharing, we've just transitioned into a BSNA software away from carbon paper. So data available to us is something that we're ensuring that we're getting good quality data into the system right now. Moving into the future, I anticipate that our ability to be agile and to provide more data-informed recommendations and sophistication relative to fees will improve. Right now, that would be a tough lift. One of the follow-up questions I had that could help us in the meantime, if that's something that you would like us to incorporate with this rollout, is if you had something specific in mind in regards to that criteria. That could help us identify and incorporate that into the fee schedule policy to a little bit more guidance on specificity, because we would be trying to determine what that breakover would be. Square footage, is it a certain type of occupancy classification? Some of that guidance may help us in the meantime, but otherwise we'll continue to bring this information back every year. We're also always going to be looking at performance. We're going to see a better picture of our performance in the next year with better data. And we'll be able to identify where there may be opportunities to sharpen our abilities to ensure that we're getting all of the inspections done that we need to get done. So just looking for that further specificity. If you'd like us to incorporate that now, I would ask if you had some more specific criteria to guide us down that path. Otherwise, we can bring it back next year for that additional consideration.
Go ahead.
If I may, I'll just, from an insurance perspective, when we take a look at writing the general liability in a commercial policy, we always take a look at the class codes. Is it office space? Is it retail space? Is it manufacturing, light manufacturing, heavy manufacturing? But I think if you're looking for a little feedback, I would consider something like a 0 to 5,000 square foot, 5,000 to 15,000 square feet, 15,000 and up. That will probably be a good indicator, because with that square footage also comes into the sprinkler systems. You've got man hours of actually walking the building. You may have more mechanical rooms. You have more HVAC systems, more exits. Everything really does kind of base off of the square footage. At least from an insurance perspective, it may help you aid a little bit in some of that tier leveling that Councilman Jensen is talking about, because with those, I mean, to evaluate my office, which is 1,200 square feet, and go out to Walmart, Those guys are in and out, and they could do that while the truck is still running. To Walmart, you're going out there in the morning and you're out there all day long. So I think square footage would have a huge impact on that to maybe help aid that. So just a little feedback from another entity that works kind of in that field. So.
Well,
I was just gonna say that's where I think the Cedar Rapids, where they're $150 an hour, falls, because it takes a few minutes to do Randy's. Maybe it's $150 fee just to do it, and then if it takes all day, that's why they're doing it by the hour. That's where that makes sense. I understand it might be more difficult to do that, and I'm not saying to change it to that right now, but that's where that tier might come into play. That if it takes over a certain amount, that then it's charged by the hour type of thing.
Right?
Yeah, I just want to clarify one thing about an earlier comment I made. I introduced the notion of is there a differentiation for nonprofits? I didn't think nor suggest that they would not pay a fee. It's just that it would be a different fee based on their nonprofit status. And so that was, I just want to put some clarity around that, because I do agree with all of the other comments that, we ought not have this service be subsidized by our tax base. I mean, this is the objective of what we're trying to do. So I just wanted to clarify that comment just for everybody's awareness.
Thanks. Okay. Where does that leave us?
Well, I sensed, and Mayor, please let me know if I'm inaccurate. I sense that for right now, the 25% target of cost recovery at $300 for the inspection fee.
So
Do we
is
have
anyone
consensus on that?
opposed to that, or have
Not starting next.
strong reservations on that? Okay, so I think we're good with that. Do we need to get a consensus on what Steve was proposing, or is that going to be till
That would
later?
be helpful.
Okay.
If we could. And we can try to bring something back. We may be limited on some of our data, but we'll be able to follow up with that.
Okay, are there others who are supportive of what Steve is proposing? Or is there anybody who objects to that? Will?
I was just gonna say, I agree that there should be something, but I understand where you're saying that maybe after the first year, so you can collect more data, so we can fine tune it even more, but.
Is that okay, Steve, or is that something you?
I don't know excuse me. I'm not sure what the challenges would be. I mean, so I think if you give us a little more feedback, if that's a major challenge, go with the simplistic approach, because starting out with something is better than nothing, and where we're at now. So I think everybody's in agreement with that. But if there's a way to do it in a simplistic manner with a minimum amount of tiers, I would certainly support that. You're going to have to look at your system, what's involved, talk to Leanne. I mean, you guys understand that aspect of it better than we do on what your software can do and what finance can do. So, I mean, I'll kind of leave that part up to you, but I would certainly, all of your thinking, I think at least the collective opinion up here is gravitating towards a tiered system in year two if we're not doing it year one.
Yeah, one area I can see where that creates some difficulty would be based on like a square footage tier system is we do know the footprint of a whole building, but sometimes due to remodels, things like that, we don't know necessarily the square footage of each occupancy in there. So then if this is charged to the tenant, we don't necessarily know each separate. It's like in a strip mall area, commercial condo place like that, we may not know the exact square footage of all those specific units. And that's where that tiered system might be a little difficult to figure out for business occupancy or tenant versus the whole building. So.
Isn't that like a part of the record, part of the public record on what those square footages are? I mean, I don't know.
Pardon me, Mayor?
Like the square footage of each unit, wouldn't that be like in the assessor records or somebody's records?
It could be if they're updated actively, but sometimes those specific small units aren't always available. It takes some time to figure that out as well.
Generally, the larger ones know, the threshold, if we're talking some simple tiers, something over like 10,000 square feet, that would be something we could probably try to see what we could bring back to council for consideration, if that sounds good.
Is everyone okay with, in general, with a tiered system? Okay. And then I think we'd be okay with you using your discretion about when to implement that and all that.
Okay.
Because on that, I was thinking, or is there any different, I'm sure it's not this simple. That's one option, but like, is there a time frame way that we do this? Like if the inspections are taking an hour, it's of this amount of time, but can the fee go up if it's going to take all day?
So currently, we don't have a time tracking mechanism. We're trying to get that straightened out and going. But that could be a potential thing that we bring back in a year if we start getting a time tracker that is working and justifiable, then that would be the goal as well, potentially.
And I guess my final question is, I mean, you guys are the experts, and are you okay with that? Or do you have strong reservations on doing that? I mean, that would be important to me, whether you, the experts, have any strong reservations. I mean, I get that we get to make that decision, but your input is also important to all of this, and you didn't come to us with that recommendation, so.
I think it's something that we can discuss internally. I get the sense that the tier is something that's important to council in regards to the size of some of our businesses comparatively. So I think it's something we can discuss to see what we can identify to bring back as a consideration. And if it's something that we come back and based on the information that's available or isn't available, we can create a plan on when we could do something like that for consideration of council.
Or if you, in going through the process, you realize that there's some real negatives to doing it. I mean, I assume you'll share that with us, and yeah. So I think we can proceed on that basis. Okay? Yeah. Anything else? Anything else from you, Jason?
No.
Good job. Good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item is our second public forum, which is a time set aside for comments from members of the public on any. Oh, I missed one. No, this is, I'm sorry. Staff had advised me that they're recommending that, or they're asking to have that removed from the, from the agenda. I should have announced that. So, yeah. Item 2 under department discussions is being removed from the agenda at the request of the staff. So, I assume that it's just being postponed for a later time or more work. Okay. All right, now we do have the public forum, which is the time set aside from comments from members of the public on any topic. Anyone here to address council, please come forward. Okay. Seeing no one is coming forward, we will close that part of the meeting and proceed to council comments. We'll start with Council Member Sternad.
I don't have anything. Thank you, though.
Okay. Well. Sarah.
Well, I'm going to say something and everybody's going to echo it, so I'll just put it out there first and then we can ditto along. And that is the exceptional snow removal of this weekend. I have seen it on social media. I have seen it on, I've heard it from neighbors. I've heard it from people I'm interacting with generally. Just phenomenal work. And it was not easy. And we know that's not easy. I had family driving on Sunday back to Des Moines, and the roads were horrific still. And there was a big difference between being in Marion and being out on the road. So kudos to the team on a first run. It's a heck of a way to start the season, but gosh, it was good. So that's my big one.
Yeah, yeah. Sarah's right. I was gonna echo that. So I would also say that, yeah, this weekend with the snowstorm and everything, just super impressive work done by the team. On the south side of Marion, streets are a little bit tighter. So typically when snowfall happens, I get a lot of emails and phone calls. This snow event, I got very minimal. So that's one way I measure it, other than being able to look outside and see the streets being plowed. But those are my two main measures, and they were both very good. And obviously, the online chatter and feedback was very positive too across the board. What we could see people complimenting the team too, so that was cool to see. So just kudos to you, Mike, and your team and everyone involved. Just great work.
Well, I did get some constructive feedback about snow removal. There were 5 fifth graders who live on Harvest Court. They would like to have more snow piled up on the center island of their cul-de-sac. Thank you.
Yes, yeah. I'm wondering why Gage gets so many phone calls when there's a lot of snow. I'm assuming it's because he's just a nice guy and helps clear a lot of sidewalks and driveways. But if that's not the case,
He did.
Does happen every once in a while.
yeah, I just want to pass on a comment. So my son-in-law's brother is in civil engineering and design, does a lot of the work. He's from the Kansas City area. So when he was visiting over Thanksgiving, he came uptown to basically get an overlook and an overview and inspect all of the changes that we did in the uptown area, because those are the types of projects that he works on. Again, so he just passed on a lot of very positive comments in the manner and how we did what we did and the way we did it with curbless streets and the lighting and everything else. So anyway, he was very positive about everything that we did. So anyway, with that, I like that comment. So, and I'll let Nick talk about Friday night coming up.
Oh, well, yeah. I hope everyone makes it out to the Christmas in the Park and Peppermint Walk on Friday. Along the lines of what Steve was saying, 2-3 years ago when we started seeing all the changes, or I guess more than that, but really about 2-3 years ago, it started to really feel like it was a Hallmark movie, and we started saying that kind of between us. And I was sending the videos to one of the people who went to high school with me, who writes all those movies for Hallmark. Sending them videos saying this should be the next scene, the next set for your next movie. But it's amazing how many people have said that to me this year. Everywhere I turn, people say, I feel like I'm in a Hallmark movie. It looks like a Hallmark movie. I've heard it over and over and over again. It's just really, it's kind of neat. I mean, we can say that among ourselves, but to see it organically in the region, be how everyone looks at Marion and Uptown especially. But the compliments, the comments that I hear are really, really amazing. It's a testament to a lot of hard work, a lot of planning, and it's just fun to be part of this period in Marion's history. I think Friday night's going to be amazing. I've been inviting leaders from across the region to come and help us celebrate and come and see the magic of Marion. I can't wait to show it off and to celebrate. Truly an amazing community event. I don't think there's a better event where you feel community than at that event. And you just look around and you see all these people happy and celebrating, and families and people of all ages, and just enjoying being part of a community. So I know it's taken a lot to get here. It's taken a lot of work and a lot of contributions by lots of people. It is kind of my hope that as we go forward, we can spread that same look and feel in the decorations and the light installations to more parts of the city, other commercial areas, other major thoroughfares in the city. I think that that's important. I think that makes it an even bigger statement of who we are as a community, especially to our own community, our own people who live here. I do hope that we can focus on that going forward. And great job to all the crews, all the planning that went into it. It really showed. For such a big event last weekend, to really have, I don't know, I didn't receive any negative comments. All I saw was positive comments. And people were very happy, and people from our neighboring communities were noticing how much better Marion's streets are. So again, great job to everyone. I know it's not easy, and it takes a lot of planning and a lot of hard work. So keep up the great work. Keep reaching higher. We'll see you next time.